Michigan State is playing with great confidence. You can see it in the way that they play. You can see it in the way that they are with each other. They should be. They've got one of the best teams in the country. I think they're playing better than they were even at the beginning when they were number one. And I don't know their health and all those type of things. They look pretty healthy to me. But what I see is great transition offense. They're tremendous at rebounding the ball. I mean, this is a team that you've got to be incredibly good at the beginning and at the end of every possession. It's not just the beginning and end of the game. Those are obvious. But the beginning and end of every possession with the way that they run and with the way that they rebound. Their help defense is as good as any teams in the country. I think some of that's because they have such great experience. You know, they're really on a string with each other offensively and defensively because of how long they've been together. You know, very similar to where we were a year ago. And when you look at high-level sophomore and Gary, when you look at seniors and juniors and other sophomores that know how to play, they're not really relying on young people for key roles. They can come in and spell the vets a little bit. And we've got to come out with great youthful enthusiasm. We've got to have tremendous consistency in our approach, consistency in the way that we talk, and then we just got to be locked into every possession. And it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a great challenge, and especially when you're dealing with a team that's as confident as they are. But there's numerous things. When you look at the statistics, there's no deviating from that when you see it on video. They're that good. They can score inside, they can score outside, they can score from three, they can score in the break, they can score at the end of the clock. And like I said, their ability to run and rebound are tremendous. And it's going to be a great atmosphere. There's no question about that. And our guys are ready and anxious to play. And we're trying to learn on the fly as quick as we possibly can.
Have the tough losses kind of accelerated the learning curve for this team because they've had to learn how to deal with that in tough games?
Well, I'm not sure in that sense. I think what we've done is responded to everything. But we don't have, I mean, it'd be silly for me to stand up here and say that we have an understanding of what this takes. I mean, we have some guys that do, but we don't. And they're in different roles. And their roles are continuing to expand not only as players, but what they have to bring as leaders. But we're never going to get, I try to tell these guys, if you're waiting for experience, we're going to be waiting for a long time. You have to get an understanding as quick as you possibly can. The understanding of possession by possession, the understanding of what mistakes can do. You know, the other day, I kept trying to get to some matchups inside of the game, and that's very hard for guys that have never looked at it that way. To understand, hey, we got to slow it down and go here, we got to go there. You know, we work on those things in practice, but then it's in the flow of the game. It's completely different. Where last year's team, okay, we're going this for so-and-so, we're going that for so-and-so, and we just did it like it was breathing. You know, those things hit you that we still have a long way to go. I think it's in our decision-making, and some of our decisions are very indecisive. Some are trying to make plays that aren't there. Some are going too fast. I mean, we've just got to continue to get an understanding, and it doesn't happen in one or two games. It happens over a period of time. What you want is to make sure that you're responding every time, and I think we have done that. And again, we didn't play with great intelligence the entire way the other day, but we played extremely hard, and for a long time. And we didn't get, we got our heads down way too quick against Syracuse. There's a loss. This loss the other day, our heads never got down inside that game. You know, if it does, you lose the game in regulation somewhere. So we're learning.
Talk about when it's there and when it isn't, I guess. How do you produce that understanding, I guess? I mean, when you're talking about, you know, can you fit a pass in this window or can't you? I mean, how are they trying to figure out?
Film, practice. I think a big thing now is really showing other teams, not just our teams from the past, but other teams, and showing, well, this is how this team is going to play. This is what it looks like if you allow them to do this. I think there's a lot of different ways. I think anytime you have a group like this, there's never, it's just human dynamics. There's never going to be one or two ways to reach everybody. You've got to find different ways. And you've got to keep being emphatic and clear with your points. Even when it's not coming across clear, you have to be clear. And at the same time, you've got to bite your tongue a little bit. Because the one thing you don't want to stifle is intensity. You don't want to stifle creativity. Now, you don't want creativity to turn into sloppy, and sometimes that's what happens. But you want players that have athleticism, that are high throttle guys. You want them to learn and grow. And that's sometimes where we talk about it needs to slow down a little bit. and let's trust our secondary sometimes a little bit more than we trust the initial pass on the breaker. Let's get the ball reversed 2 or 3 times. Those things take some time, and I can't tell you when it's going to click. I mean, it does, but it just takes time to get to that.
I guess it's just about vision in that regard in terms of
vision.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like when they see it, whether it's how big does a window have to be for them to fit it?
Oh, you're talking about like
when it comes to just passing the ball, when they're looking out there and saying, okay, like is this there?
I understand what you're saying. I understand now. I think a lot of it is it's everybody's got to be connected. The post up has got to be strong. It can't be a one-arm post up. It can't be one arm in, one arm out. It can't be. You can't make a pass without faking a pass. I think every time we try to go a little too fast, whether I've got one hand up and I'm going to throw into that guy with one hand, or I don't try to fake a pass, those are the fundamentals of the game. I mean, you can't cheat the fundamentals of the game. And a lot of times for players, they just want to skip. They want to skip from A to D, knowing that B and C are as important as anything that you do to get to that point. So I think the other day we had some mistakes at the end that could have come out of fatigue. I think it came out of length. I think the windows, sometimes they're open right now and you got to go. I think our indecisiveness sometimes comes from not making the play immediately to making it sometimes a second later. And to answer to your question, and I think those are the one things that you want to keep trying to get across in film and practice, then hope that it starts to catch in games because it's all moving fast.
Tom, the toughness you guys showed, and it showed in free throw shooting in particular on the road, how important is that now facing a very tough-minded Michigan State?
Well, it's very important. I mean, because there's always things in the game that are up for grabs. And the other day, Illinois was allowing 15, 16 free throws a game. We were getting 31. We need those 30 free throws, okay, and that type of game. Now, we made 10 threes. I don't think we go into the game saying, let's average 10 threes right now. I mean, that's pretty good. I know we're getting our shooting better. But those come off movement. Those come off penetration. Those come off inside outs. Those come on going into the post. The double team comes and getting kicked back out, and then guy getting a three. Well, it's the same thing with your free throw shooting. There's got to be certain things that you have to have every night. We've got to be a good rebounding team every time. We've got to be a good transition team, offensively and defensively, every night. Even if that means it's not there initially, do we get something in the secondary aspect of it? The ball has got to go through the paint for us. We've got to have great movement. Got to have it. I mean, we'll see a lot of different lineups tomorrow. Sometimes I think the best lineups Michigan State plays is when they go big and Brandon Dawson's at the three. Those are very hard lineups to deal with. So you've got to be able to counter that. But the bottom line is no matter what you're trying to counter, you still have to have your constants. And the free throw shooting, the rebounding, the transition defense, the challenging shots, those things, they've got to keep us in there. And then the rest of it will get better.
Have you adjusted a little bit defensively with the way they're calling charges now? I mean, do you back off the charges, or do you approach it a little differently because it's so hard to get a charge?
Yeah, we haven't spent nearly as much time on drawing charges, and I think it's a big thing to watch because I think you got to be real careful right now with is it a charge or is it a flop? And I'm very anxious to watch over the I'd hate to say the first month, that's too long. The next couple of weeks around the country to see how the leagues are going to be officiated. They need to be officiated like the rules are written. And they need to be officiated in the sense, and it's every league. I mean, the rules committee, John Adams got together, they didn't put it in for the non-conference. They put it in for everything. And so we've got to continue to because you're trying to get used to the way that it is. Well, now it can't change. And it's got to stay the way, knowing that there's going to be adjustments made in the game. That's obvious. But the charges are made a constant, and now you just want to make sure that that if a guy's getting a charge, he's earning it, and if a guy's there late, that you're getting called, for the block, so that the offense doesn't go into a situation where they're not getting rewarded for their drive. And that's going to be really important as we go on with this.
The 10 3-pointers, kind of when you look back at it, what was working? I know you mentioned some of it.
Ball movement, body movement. Really, that's what it was. I mean, a little bit in transition, but ball movement and body movement, inside out, going through the paint. Going through the paint on the pass, going through the paint on the drive. That's how we want to play. And in the biggest game that we've had to date, we got the best ball movement with that. I mean, we're making progress. No question about that. But making progress in this league when everybody else right now is established for the most part the way that they are with the veterans, that's what that's where we've got to continue to get that understanding that when it moves, when the bodies move, when the ball moves, there's a lot of great help defense in this league. This is as good as any tomorrow, as good as any. And if we play into their hands, we'll have a hard time scoring. We'll have a hard time scoring, shooting, posting. So what you do has got to be constant. You know, the ball's got to move, the bodies have got to move. And then that's a direct indication of getting open looks the other day like we got. And I thought our three-point defense on a team that really relied on the rim or the three, you know, for their scoring was outstanding. But we gave up too many easy baskets in the lane, and we gave up too many offensive rebounds, and it cost us.
When you've got athletes who can play in fifth gear, so to speak, but they may be making a couple mistakes, how do you go about balancing keeping them in that gear when need be and teaching them to stay
Carefully,
pull them down a little bit? Or
a little bit, but it's a long haul. I mean,
right.
You don't want to. If you start stifling people, you're going to stifle confidence. We don't. You guys are all with us. You can't look out there and say, well, this guy's been down the line so much. I mean, that nothing's going to rattle him. We're not like that. You know, Cody was like that. Christian got to be like that. Jordan Hulls was like that. I mean, you have to grow into that. Those guys weren't always like that either. They grew into that. Cody was always pretty established like that. He rarely got rattled. But there were times, you know, we didn't come out and talk about it publicly, but there were times he was rattled. But the thing he did is he could respond so fast to what he had to learn to get ready for the next one. That's a gift. I mean, that's a gift. And so, in answer to your question, you've got to, it's a balancing act. There's no we're going to coach everybody the same way the whole time. But at the same time, you're not accepting the things that get in and become distractions, whether it be body language or getting down and, you know, you got to help them understand to get determined. And part of determination is them believing that they can do it. So it's a balancing act when you're dealing with youth. There's no question about that. And you know that the end result, if they listen and pay attention, is going to end up pretty good, like it has for the other ones here the last couple of years. But it takes a while to get to that.
Payne was obviously pretty good to begin with, but he seems like he's taken another level to this point. What stands out to you from what you've seen from film so far?
Well, there's so many players on the court that can play. I mean, they're rarely putting anybody out there that can't make shots. And so I think that helps because you can't build your defense around stopping him because then they're gonna carve you up with threes. You can't go out and over pressure because then they're gonna go around you. And Valentine is a really hard matchup, as is Dawson. So now you're talking about a guy like Payne, who's one of the most unique matchups in the country because he can post, he can play at the foul line, he can drive it now, and he can shoot threes, not to mention rebound and defend. So when you've got a guy like that, I mean, who really made those strides offensively a year ago, he was making threes, it becomes that much harder to guard. So your help defense, your ability to guard the first dribble, you know, those things are crucial. You know, this is a team that you cannot let them just come down and play the way they want to play because they're going to beat pretty much everybody if you do.
Anything else?
All righty.